people to come in and get some coverage in the newspaper.
So
and on the
my
patch.
advice, though, is it's great to present the plan, but if you can't give people an idea of what it's gonna cost, then I think it's not useless, but it's just not, it's not gonna have the impact.
Well, we're not gonna save telling them what the project is until we get a price. I mean, you know, again, people suggesting that we gotta get out there and tell them what's going on. Even just update them on where we are, and that's what we're going to do. When we have a price, we'll put it out there. We just
But I
don't
can't
have
believe
it
we
yet.
can't give them an estimate now.
Well,
I just don't understand.
You can get an estimate based on the number of square feet and what schools typically cost per square foot.
Correct.
We're
That's
gonna be a little bit
That's
more.
a very, very loosey-goosey number, and the question is, you know, can the public understand that's really based on just generalizations? It's not a number you can really hang your hat on at this point.
But it's almost October 1st now, Mel, and we're talking about
Yeah,
November.
a
It's
couple
not
of months.
a giant leap as far as the amount of time it's gonna take. But we
I-
don't have a price right now. I mean,
We're
we've been
still
meeting every 3
developing-
weeks and we don't have a price.
But I hear Mel, I mean, the process is, you know, the process is what it is and it's dragged. But until people hear a price tag, I think their ears are gonna be kind of, well, okay, I'll
Right.
start listening.
No
when
one's
I
gonna be
hear
able to
how
commit
much
to
this
it.
But
is.
when they hit, we're not asking them to commit to it. I mean,
No.
we don't need a commitment now. We need a commitment when we vote in
It's just
January.
an expression of frustration at the process, and I completely understand it. and-
The only thing I can preach, and I don't know who's actually talking about out there in the public, but is patience. You know, this is the process. We have to be patient. We have to work with our partners in collaboration to get this project done. And I think we're right on the verge of getting to the time when things are really gonna start to move. Because I think once this meeting is over on Wednesday, we're gonna have an idea what the project is. We're gonna go into full gear as far as the schematic design and developing, not only what this project's gonna look like, but what it's gonna cost.
I would almost think that we push the whole vote back a month, just because you've got 2 weeks of Christmas break that you're gonna lose your audience, that you really need to vote, you know, and
Well, again,
people
the
campaign on
other,
that level.
yeah,
you know.
well, I mean, we can measure that. We certainly haven't scheduled a meeting yet, and, you know, that's obviously gonna come down the road. But the other thing you're looking at too is trying to develop, you know, construction time too, to get things going and get bids out and have some time to start the project before the next winter season sets in and all of that, so. But those things, Mike, again, those are gonna come, and obviously, I wanna take input from the school committee, cause you guys are driving the bus, you know, so we need your input. But, again, I'd urge everybody to be patient. We'll have a lot more in 2 weeks when we have a meeting, a school committee meeting to talk about. Okay, Cliff, you had anything you wanted to add?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I did wanna say that, since in my travels, since I've been thrown out of my house for these last 2 months, I did have the opportunity to go to Hanover, where I'm from actually, and I saw my old high school torn down and the new building project, and I pulled over and I'm like, that's gonna be us sometime, and those seemed a little more real that it could potentially happen. But they also went through this process, and it was very frustrating for the community.
Correct me if I'm wrong,
So-
isn't our project manager or doing the Hanover project?
Someone is, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought, and it looked fantastic. I'm like, oh.
How old was
Beautiful. This
the
is
old
in
high school,
Newtonwood.
Karen? When did they?
Oh gosh, she's in the 40s.
40s?
Yeah, it was really, it was interesting because I could see the hallway where I had actually gone to school, and I could see it had been cut off like a sandwich, and you could see inside it, and I'm like, I had English class just right there, and half
Yeah.
of it's gone. But it was a beautiful building, and just underscored to me that the process actually does come to fruition.
It does.
It's just a pain.
It does.
So.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Next, is, Chris Frizell's not here, obviously, right?
He is going to come to the October 11th meeting.
Oh, he is, okay.
Yes, so we're going to postpone him.
Okay, because I wanted to make sure we got him in without having to wait.
Right.
All right. Next on the agenda is the 2011-2012 school committee goals. I think Mel and Kathy did some work on this. From what I can see, it looks like a pretty good summary of what we talked about. Who wants to take the lead on this? Well, we've broken down the goals into basically 4 areas: leadership and governance, financial, asset management, educational program, and parent and community relations. And we've tried to simplify this. We've come up with a goal statement, an objective, and certain activities that fall under each one of these objectives. On the leadership and governance, any comments as to what's on the page there?
Are those on here?
What?
Are those were those in the Dropbox?
I don't see it.
I don't,
You
we
don't
didn't
see
get those, no.
All right,
Okay.
let's scrap the technology. By the
No,
way.
we didn't get the goals.
Just for a comment for the public's edification, Mel and Mike are both on an experimental program using paperless online system here to run the meetings, and they've had the entire agenda and
Thanks.
all the attachments essentially
Except for the goals.
downloaded, except for the goals. And they're working off of their iPads, so this is an experiment that we're gonna do for a couple of months,
Until the first meeting in December.
until the first meeting in December, to see how it goes.
We didn't pay for the iPads.
No, they're
they
personal-
own their own
Personally owned iPads.
Yep. Yep. And feel free to give a Red Sox score anytime. Okay.
How do you know that's not what we're watching? No.
Violate open
You
meeting
guys
law.
all set?
Thank
You guys
so
all
much.
set now? Under the leadership and governance, I'm just gonna read the objective, and then let's comment on the activities. To develop and implement district policies and practices that provide direction and tools for administrators to implement effective programs for student achievement, promote the inclusion of all students, and provide equal access to all programs and curriculum. And we had set a number of activities underneath that, and this was an area, I think, didn't it, that we were struggling a little bit to find out what the school committee or how the school committee fit into this area?
Yes, we used the evaluation from MASC as the framework by which we identified some of the activities to engage in for this school year. So we had conversation about what fits under leadership and governance based on that particular framework. And all of these sub-activities fit under that particular heading. So when you talk about governance, you're talking about everything you do by statute. And it also incorporated some of the goals that you've used in the past.
Really nice.
I mean, yeah, this is a good summary, because that, you guys pulled this together.
Yeah, well, what we did was Kathy sent me basically a lot of the stuff that we went over in our workshop, and then she put it in the format, as she said, following the MASC recommendations. And then I just went in and edited and added some mainly added activities, and edited few edits to the goal statements and the objectives, but not many.
But some of these activities are gonna repeat themselves, I think, under
That's
different goals,
correct.
obviously,
Right.
as well.
That's correct.
Because there's a, kind of a budgetary and a communication aspect to a lot of these things. Any comments, anything anybody sees that they wanna change or discuss under there?
Thank you for keeping the orientation for new school members.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that's actually
Yeah, that
interesting. I think
was-
that's a new thing for, one of the things we talked about at our workshop
Fits under this
It does, doesn't it?
section.
was having an orientation for new members, where it's not that new members come in and they're on their own and nobody's helping them, but we don't have a formal process where you come in and you say, okay, here's all the things that I really need to know. And so we thought that it made sense to implement that program. And so Kathy and Carl and folks in the administrative team will probably be working with folks in the business office to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we kept that in because we think that's important.
Any other comments? Kathy, anything else under?
No, I think you did a great job. I know that there
We
was
did?
some level of
did.
frustration when you were having conversation about how does this all come together. But I had faith that it would come together, and as you can see, by the way that it's laid out, it does fit. And there are lots of activities in which you'll be engaging this year, so we have some work to do.
Let me ask you a question. For instance, under leadership and governance, under B, strategic planning on the activity side.
Yes.
It says work with leadership team to review, revise, and improve the district vision, mission, and strategic goals. How do you see that as coming
Well,
together?
as I've mentioned over the course of last year and at the beginning of this year, the leadership team has been reading Strategy in Action.
Right.
So we've been working on the development of a draft vision and revision of the mission statement, and I passed that out in the last school committee packet. Since then, all of the faculty across this district have been engaging in small groups, reviewing that draft mission and vision and providing input. So we're going to incorporate all of that input into another working session where the leadership team comes together and makes revisions as they see fit. And then I would bring that forward to you again with the revisions and ask for your approval. Once that's approved, that we now move into the development of a theory of action that will drive our action plan for continuous improvement, which is a strategic plan in modern terms.
So do you envision us having any input into that, or simply
Well-
approving it when it comes in front of us?
A lot of it will dovetail with the goals that you have set, so you've already created a framework within which we will
They're
work.
working with that framework.
Yes.
Jerry,
And
I just wanted
yes.
to point out
Go ahead,
a
Mel.
few important ones here. One of them is under human resources, where the school department has never had a human resources professional employed. We do use the town hall human resources person. She's part-time. And a lot of that falls onto Carl, Kathy.
Just to point out, we have about 300 employees, Kyle, am I right?
That's right.
Right.
So,
And we have no human resources director. And a lot of that falls on Kathy, Carl. Some of that's always going to fall on Kathy and Carl, but we have nobody to review policies, to help us with employee-related issues. And I think that's something that we really ought to look into. I think another area on here, and I don't know if it's in the goals or not, is, it is, technology staffing.
yeah, it's under,
Under educational program, instructional technology, we're woefully understaffed in technology at this, in this district. And I was talking to Kathy the other day, and it's not just, a lot of the equipment is fine. It's implementing programs to take advantage of that equipment and to make it useful. And you can have all the equipment you want, and if you don't
absolutely.
use it, it's a waste of money. And that's one of the issues that we're worried about, is we don't have the right people to help implement this technology correctly and get the best use
That
out
brings
of
up a
it.
good point. Where are we equipment-wise? Have we caught up at all, Kyle, or are we still
I
trying to
think we've
catch up?
caught
on
Yeah.
that?
Go ahead.
Please, Kathy.
I think we've caught up. We had that major purchase based on the capital improvement that we took a look at, and we now have our 5 carts with our iPads. We had teachers write grants to access those and implement those in classrooms. So we have a one-to-one pilot program going on at each school this year. That's very exciting. And we've started to replace some of the tabletops with laptops that were also purchased with that capital improvement purchase. But a lot of the technology that has been in place is starting to break down, and we can repair it and still use it. But as Mel just alluded to, it's the personnel that we need in order to maintain the equipment that we're having some trouble with. And so we're looking at a variety of options right now to support what we currently have in place. But that's one of the areas that you'll see under leadership and governance, as well as the educational program. And it is exploring adequate staffing to support instructional technology integration. Would you like to add anything about the
You said
hardware?
something different from what Mel had said. Mel had said that we don't have enough programs for instructional technology, and you stated that we don't have enough staff to repair our computers.
It's both.
It's a combination of
Yeah.
both.
It's a combination of both. It's the instructional technology integration specialist,
Yeah.
as well as the technicians to
Right.
support.
So
The
at budget time,
technology.
that's something to keep
Right.
in mind,
Yeah.
obviously.
I'd just make a quick comment. In the year 2000, we had 3 FTE technology. The department consisted of 3 people. And that was in the year 2000. The year 2011, we also have 3 people. But in the intervening 11 years, we've tripled the amount of peripherals in the district. We have
Same staff.
installed a far more sophisticated network that requires more maintenance than it did back in 11 years ago in terms of security. Give you an example. Every single student has a password. Every single employee has a password and an account. That wasn't the case 11 years ago. And then thirdly, you have a far greater emphasis on integrating technology into the academic side of things. And there's been no change there either in terms of, as Kathy just noted, the integration of technology
Cut back.
academically. That's been actually reduced. So I think we have been focusing these past 10 or 11 years appropriately on classroom teachers, and with spare budgets, we've always wanted to maintain our solvency there. But we may be reaching a point where we are starting to break down a little bit, and we may have to make that a major priority in the 13 budget.
Budget. Okay.
The other thing I wanted to note, and this isn't personnel related, though it could require more personnel, is we've got a ton of data. And one of the things we talked about in the workshop was how we don't really make great use of that, or we don't know how to analyze that. And so under educational program, under activities, curriculum, instruction, and assessment, we talk about using reliable data to measure effectiveness of curriculum and instruction and developing a deeper understanding of data available to the district. And I think that's important because if you just look at numbers on the surface, they sometimes